Hello everybody, and welcome to the next video in the eOPSEC 101 course, or OPSEC for Absolute Beginners. In the last video, we finally got done with discussing DNS and private DNS in this series, and before we move on to the VPN kill switch part, I want to go over the 5, 9, and 14 eyes alliances. Now, if you've watched the Proton VPN video for Windows in this series, you'll probably remember that I briefly touched on the 14 eyes alliance. In this video, we're going to go into that in detail, and there's going to be a couple of other ones that the vast majority of people, even in OPSEC, aren't aware of. So this isn't an interactive video, however, it pertains to many of the other things we're going to talk about in this series, so I would absolutely take the time to watch it in its entirety and just stick around. So first off, what's the Five Eyes Alliance? That is an alliance made up of the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. They focus on four things: signal intelligence, military intelligence, human intelligence, and geopositional intelligence. What this is, it is a organization that is comprised of these five nations, and they basically are saying, hey, if we need information on each other's private citizens, then we can cooperate with each other and get that to each other. So it's primarily made probably with good intentions, just in case of things like terrorism or dissent, because I believe this was created during the Cold War. However, today they're basically like, okay, if you need any information at all, then, just let us know and we'll get it to you if we have it. And if we don't have it, we will get it. And that sounds bad enough, but as you see on the slide, it says spying on their own private citizens and each other's. Because the Five Eyes Alliance they have this slogan that's basically like, we don't spy on each other, we help each other. However, there's been so many reported cases of the Five Eyes Alliance nations being caught spying on each other's private citizens that honestly I'm surprised this organization is still around today. That's just how bad it is. But you can look this up all you want. If you look up, I don't know, Five Eyes Alliance spying, and you look close enough, you will eventually find the many stories. I know you can find it on Forbes, you can find it on Wikipedia, you can find it on a couple other websites, but I'm sure you can find instances that I've never heard of because it's just happened so often. And then again, federal agents control your privacy. I mean, with everything I just told you, that should be a given. But now we have the Nine Eyes Alliance, and there's really not much to mention here because they don't change their strategy whatsoever. The Nine Eyes Alliance is just, a a slightly larger organization that is also comprised of Denmark, France, the Netherlands, and Norway. And they're created with the intention of bypassing national privacy laws. With the Five Eyes Alliance, they don't really have to worry about national privacy laws because in that specific alliance with those rules, everything that they provide is basically, what's the word I'm looking for? It's intended to be in cases of terrorism or dissent. Now, again, that's the fine print. I'm sure the organization violates that all the time. But the Nine Eyes Alliance is meant to provide each other with information, even if it violates privacy laws in their own nation or any other nation inside of the organization. And then we go to the 14 Eyes Alliance. This is a bit more specialized. So it's officially named SIGINT Seniors Europe, which is Signal Intelligence Seniors Europe, or SSEUR as an abbreviation. This is the other 9 members. Say you add United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Denmark, France, the Netherlands, Norway, and then 5 more of Germany, Belgium, Italy, Spain, and Sweden. Now, they're primarily focused on signal intelligence. As you can see, the Five Eyes Alliance is primarily focused on 4 different aspects. So, signal intelligence, military intelligence, blah, blah, blah. But this is more focused on signal intelligence. But then we've got a few others we're going to talk about. I wasn't originally planning on discussing these because, one, I didn't know much about Club de Berne at all. I've heard of it a few times, but I never really looked into it. But there's also going to be one more, which you're going to find extremely interesting. So this is the 5, 9, and 14 Eyes alliances, but we've got a few special guests. So on the next slide, we have Club de Berne. It includes all members of the European Union, every single one, all 27 states, except for Austria, because apparently Austria has no problem whatsoever with espionage tactics as long as it's not happening within its own nation. So as a result, with the proven track record that they have of, not necessarily trying to prohibit espionage in other nation states in the EU, then they've been excluded. But it also includes the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and Norway. I don't know if you've kept much attention on Brexit. I know when it first happened, everybody knew about it, but it kind of died down. The United Kingdom did leave the European Union in 2020, so they're no longer a part of the EU, but they are a part of this organization. And then, of course, if you care about geopolitics at all, Switzerland and Norway are not in the EU, but they are in this organization, which Switzerland surprises me because they've been, this whole neutral country for like 5 billion years, but whatever. It's officially labeled as an intelligence sharing alliance. So with Club de Berne, they're not even trying to hide it. They're not trying to be secretive or anything. They just straight up call it intelligence sharing. And with everything else that we've discussed in this video so far, you could probably guess what intelligence sharing means. Now, this is fairly recent. It was actually created not too long after the event you see on your screen. I didn't put the number itself, and I'm not going to say it, because at least while I'm making these videos, I enjoy having a YouTube channel. But I'm pretty sure every single person on planet Earth, at least the ones watching this video, know what's special about this date. If you don't, look it up. And now this one is particularly vile. I'm not gonna spoil it before we look at it, but all I'm gonna say is this is the kind of shit you'd expect to hear about from like the American government or the Russian government. However, next we're gonna get into Maximator. So Maximator is an organization that was established by Denmark, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and Sweden. So it's a Western EU organization. I do want to point out that when it was first created during the Cold War, I think I put the date in here, didn't I? No, I didn't, but it was created in 1978, and I think it was Denmark, France, and West Germany. Because if you don't know, during the Cold War, Germany was split in half. West Germany was democratic and East Germany was communist. But it was those three countries, and now it's the 5 you see up here. So it's been around for a little bit. It's apparently named after a type of beer. Apparently this was named after a beer that a German brewery produced. So, I don't know. That's why I put lol like that, because I thought it was funny. It's extremely secretive, and it's only been public knowledge for 5 years, but it's been established since 1978. Let's see, it's 2025 today, so it's been, I think, 53 years, if I did the math correctly. As a matter of fact, just to make sure that I did go over that correctly, give me just 1 second. I'm actually going to go ahead and look this up while I'm making the video. So if I do Maximator, and then go here, Maximator 1976, so it's been around even longer. It's been around, oh crap, what would that be? That would be 49? Yeah, 49 years. Ignore where I got the 53 from. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, it's been around for 49 years. So the fact it's only been public knowledge for 5, it makes you wonder, like, we've discussed the 5 Eyes, the 14 Eyes, and the 9 Eyes, and then the Club de Berne and Maximator. Those are the 5 that we know about. There's probably more out there. As a matter of fact, with what we know about, nation states and everything else today, there's definitely more out there. These are just the 5 we know about. But the reason that I say that this is something you'd expect from, like, American government or even Russian government is the one main thing that they're known for is selling encryption devices with back doors. We don't even know who these were sold to, but a whistleblower had leaked that they sold encryption devices. Hopefully, what I'm thinking is these were sold to, like, private businesses and things, especially during the Cold War. because that's just what makes more sense. But what it could be, I doubt, but it could be, is that they sold these military-grade encryption devices to other members of NATO, which unfortunately we don't know. But that's the one main thing they're known for. And they're primarily concentrated on signal intelligence. So not really human or military or anything like that. But that's extremely interesting to learn about. Just from what I'm seeing, if I ever find more information, I may do a video purely on Maximator in the future, but it won't be a part of this course. And then that's all we've got. Now, there is one thing that I want to mention, because if you've seen the IVPN videos, which if you haven't, I absolutely recommend you watch them, you'll have noticed I mentioned that IVPN is technically in the United Kingdom. But that's also not really the case. If IVPN was subject to UK law, I would never use it. I would never recommend it. It's a bit of a weird case, and you're going to see weird cases like this every once in a while. But IVPN is in the British Crown Colony of Gibraltar. And if you don't know what Gibraltar is, it's a little small piece of land, I think, in southern Spain, like near the coast that connects southern Spain to the northern tip of Africa. But it's a British crown colony and has been for a very long time. Now, the neat part about a crown colony is that while they're technically owned by the United Kingdom, Gibraltar, I must have said Seychelles for some reason, Gibraltar is subject to its own law. It doesn't follow United Kingdom law, and they have not cooperated with the United Kingdom in any major terrorist landscape or anything like that. So they've had no reason to cooperate on things that would risk the identity of its own citizens. On top of that, IVPN itself has a very good proven track record. And it's not a case of even, the government saying they need information on its users and them telling the government to screw off. It's the government hasn't even asked, because they're just, both the government and the country themselves, or the company themselves, are just that tightly wound around individual security and privacy. So you're going to find examples like that. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Molvad is based in either Sweden or Germany, which both of those are part of the 14 Eyes Alliance. But I believe that they have like encryption on data by default, to the point where they can't even see your data even if they wanted to. Now, I don't know how that works exactly, but if it is like that, then, even a VPN provider in Germany or Sweden would be okay. But these are very niche examples. VPN companies in the United States or the United Kingdom or whatever, 99.9999999% of the time, don't even look at it, because it's got backdoors built into it and they cooperate with the US government. That is just the point that I wanted to make this video for, because some people, they're going to see IVPN and Proton VPN by default, and they're going to say, well, what about this other VPN? They claim to not have any logs, they claim to really care about your privacy, but they're in the United States, or they're in France, or, the Netherlands. Don't do it. Now, one more thing, most VPN providers will have servers in different countries. So we'll say IVPN, for instance, they're based in Gibraltar, but they have, servers in Massachusetts and New Jersey, I think, and Washington, D.C. So you may think, well, can't those servers be basically hijacked by the U.S. government? And even if they could, I doubt they'd get any information, because at that level, your information's already been encrypted. And I know that IVPN at least has a very strong encryption protocol. So even if the US government, basically did a drive-by and got your data while it's on the move, I don't think they could do anything with it. But this has been a video on the 14 Eyes, 5 Eyes, 9 Eyes, 25,000 Eyes, Alliance. I think the next video is going to be for VPN kill switches, unless I come up with something else that I feel like is important in between DNS and kill switches. But I don't think there will be. So either way, that's been this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Either way, my name is James Martin. You guys have been amazing, and I will see you in the next video.